Saturday, May 25th, 2024. It's currently 4:46 p.m. as you can see here. And I just finished capturing a documentation of what is impossible light activity that's on my ceiling. And again, so you can see the time. I captured it today at 4:40 p.m. That's when the video ended. It started at 4:27 p.m. And this is relevant for evidence of what is the everything that's occurring in Los Angeles is an ongoing crime scene that serves for the juxtaposition of the crime scenes where I was subject to the pattern of conduct well before relocating to Los Angeles. And there is no such thing as the sun being over Alvarado Gardens, the property being directly over my head at Alvarado Gardens, the property at any time of day. Certainly not over my head. It is well within the pattern of conduct of stalking with light that is serving, and it is the identification of what is group stalking, which is committed by a public entity. It is a matter of public corruption because a government has no constitutional grounds or basis whatsoever. There is no legal grounds whereby group stalking can be committed by the government. And that's exactly what group stalking is. And that is evidenced through the documentation of the pattern of conduct as well. In the specific environment, which is how you're identifying what is stalking, everything that's occurring in that specific environment, which again, where you're first establishing the specific environment, then you are identifying what is nothing other than criminal presence. Stalking is occurring in the specific environment, and it is stalking that is designed to occur in plain sight, yet remaining outside of the ability for the targeted individual to identify or prove. Okay, all of that is literally gone to the wayside with regard to the P.O.C. I'm showing you what is demonic activity. The specific environment is a demonic one. The stalking conduct is all manner of demonic activity. The activity that's occurring in that specific environment has not only a spiritual significance, meaning those that are of demon possession are engaging in literally a code of conduct. They're engaging in the same exact thing over and over and over again. And that's why it's called the pattern of conduct as well. But it's also referred to as a pattern of conduct because it's stalking. And if you're aware with how you prosecute any crime for stalking, you are documenting a pattern of conduct, a course of conduct by the one whom you are alleging is stalking you. Under the circumstances of federal group stalking and monitoring, the government is stalking you. And that is well provable and established through a pattern of conduct. And that pattern of conduct is also revealing what is the condition of those that are stalking. And they're doing so in concert with the government that is engaged in stalking in that environment. Everything, and that environment is speaking to what is entirely criminal. That unnatural environment is revealing what is entirely criminal. It's of a highly malicious nature. Okay. And it's that which is engaged in, it's executed by the state, who is using any and everyone, that is companies that are the people that say using their residences, which are no longer private residences in the specific environment. You are exercising no constitutional privacy rights. You're present on behalf of what is occurring. A state system is underway. You are in the shoes of the state. You have forfeited by virtue of being present in the path. Group stalking is criminal conduct. It's a matter of public corruption. You are stalking on behalf of the state in concert with the state. It's an act of terrorism. And the entity is doing that at their place of business, using their companies coming onto the grounds of the state, and which is where the specific environment is. Alvarado Gardens is where the state's criminal system is underway. And you're coming onto the grounds and maliciously doing so, thinking that no one's going to know what you're doing. That has also been exhibited through the pattern of conduct by the entity. In other words, everyone that I'm documenting, you're exhibiting the malice with which they engage in group stalking, thinking that no one knows what they're doing. Or no one knows the significance of what they're doing. No one knows the mens rea behind what they're doing. Thinking that no one knows how they are targeting someone, and thinking that we're only looking at the superficial veil because you're delivering a package. That demon is arriving in the path, which is a crime in and of itself. Then they're engaging in what is additional methods of criminal facilitation. Every element of federal group stalking and monitoring is a federal offense. You engage in activity creation, that's a federal offense. You engage in presence, stalking, any maintenance of presence, that's a federal offense. You engage in any method of audible activity creation, sensational activity, that's a federal offense. Not only are you a group stalker, but to engage in the crime of group stalking, you're engaging in facilitation of federal group stalking, meaning you are helping the rest of the entity threaten the life of one person. That's a federal offense, and a very serious one. Independently, you're talking about what is grounds of federal prison, depending on the facts and circumstances that you're engaging in it. Okay, so I want to make sure that for example, if you are a group stalker acting in the shoes of a corrupt law enforcement agency, a sheriff's department, a police department, a fire department, ambulance personnel, you're going to federal prison. The state's group stalking is absolutely not going to be tolerated at all. And I've documented plenty, and they're going to federal prison. That's actually what's going to happen to them. So the entity is acting in concert with the people of the state. Where you want to live at a crime scene, and you thought beforehand no one is ever going to be able to, first of all, identify the fact that you're a demon and that you're group stalking by address, serving for what is a seamless engagement and what is an intolerable level of criminal facilitation in concert with that entity that's group stalking where you live. All of the evidence is pointing against you, and you're also going to federal prison because there is no legal basis for maintaining presence in the specific environment. There is no excuse. I do not care what your mortgage says. I don't care who signed on your lease. It is legally irrelevant. The state's criminal system is underway, and that's why the target individual is establishing the specific environment which controls. The sun is rising and setting where you are paying your mortgage. You're a group stalker. That's understanding what is malice. And it's also not coincidental when the people of the state themselves are exhibiting their demon possession and their criminal cooperation with regard to what is the engineered light. It is legally irrelevant that you want to claim that you signed a lease and that you did not know the target individual. You have no idea about what is group stalking, and you didn't know that the police were flying over the apartment building in relevant positions. And none of that's legally irrelevant because you're understanding what the entity is engaging in. You are facilitating a government system, and the entity does so with regard to what is malice. Okay, so while you are looking at engineer light inside of the apartment of or the house of the target individual, and their neighbor wants to feign some ignorance, okay, I don't care how persuasive it is, you're looking at what is the crime scene, and that always controls. The crime scene is not there because they're not engaged in the crime of federal group stalking and monitoring. The state is relying on them. The state cannot do it without them, and the state is doing it via them, whoever they are. They are documented by address. You don't have to have a personal relationship with them. You don't have to have ever spoken to them. And that's why you have the specific environment. And the specific environment is literally a scientific impossibility. That's identification of the crime. Okay, because the crime is speaking to what is not only a phenomenon, the fact that that phenomenon is following you everywhere that you're going. This is what defies common sense. And this is where you have a legally irrelevant cause in federal court. You will get your day in court, sure, because this is the United States. And regardless of the fact that the state of California is not honoring and abiding by the laws, they will get their day in court, in federal court, and they're going to be prosecuted because there is no legally relevant cause. You don't have any legally relevant position. You have no constitutional protection for living in the path, crossing path, visiting in the path, driving by the path, walking in the path. This is how the matter of public corruption is underway. And it's exposing what is highly malicious. Where a demon-possessed population thought beforehand it could target someone and psychologically torture that person, and they would never have the wherewithal, the ability to even have the language to speak to what they're subject to. Enter in the P.O.C. Okay, that's capturing what is malice. And so this is what I'm capturing on video. I'm speaking to the environment. I'm giving analysis in this video. What I'm honing in on is the impossible light activity that's on my ceiling. And again, this is at 4:40 p.m. I'm showing you what is the light source that's directly over my head while I'm speaking. This is what you should have been paying attention to visibly while I'm speaking, because this is the light source. This is, again, the entity would like to suggest that this is the sun, that there is no specific environment, that the targeted individual is no such thing. This does not work in the with the P.O.C. But like I said, the entity in federal court, because this is exactly what you're going to want to argue, and you're going to lose that argument. There is no sun that's going to be at the same address as a matter of document, which is why you document. Because there's a documented sunrise and there's a documented sunset. And it's impossible that that sunset is seen in perfect alignment with my bedroom window at the Ontario Museum of History and Arts. Because you have what are multiple angles of analysis. Not only the engineer light, but also the entity maintaining a light source at a plethora of venues, where the entity is also group stalking by the state in helicopters, also repeatedly engaging in what are acts of violence, as I've documented here in Los Angeles, under what is a light source that's not possibly the sun, and over for example, the car garage on Q Avenue in Rancho Cucamonga at the Victoria Gardens Plaza. That's not in perfect alignment with me while I'm standing on Alvarado, and this demon-possessed entity that is group stalking then engages in an assault and battery. And that's the federal prosecution. It is not the natural environment, nor is it even plausible or reasonable to suggest that it is the reason of the natural environment, nor is federal group stalking and monitoring occurring in the natural environment, nor will any expert get on the stand and contend that that is the natural environment. I'm at the same address where the documentation of a sunrise amongst engineered light is present. So this is how you're prosecuting an entity that is maliciously and, again, ignorantly to its own demise, showing what is the public safety concern. A demon-possessed population has every intent to engage in what is threatening your life and your safety, and obsessively continuing to engage in that surveillance, keeping you under surveillance, obsessed with you for no legitimate reason, besides the fact that they serve Satan. All right. And this inferior entity, now I'm referencing the demon possessed entity that constitutes the public entity. The demon possessed are occupying spaces in government, and they're all waiting to be removed. Okay, they're waiting to be exposed and they're waiting to be removed. Nonetheless, this inferior entity is serving for revealing what is literally the mental illness, because this behavior, this criminal conduct, that sort of that lack of ability to rationalize what's in your best interest and in the best interest of others who are acting in concert with you, and that's established not by somebody's hearsay, not by just my opinion. That's already substantiated by hard evidence. The inability to rationalize that maybe we should stop here, maybe we should not do this anymore, maybe this isn't going to work out well, maybe this isn't going to plan. That's not what the government is doing. That's not what the people of the state are doing. And that's revealing what is relevant to their mind state. And that mind state is, possessed by a whole population. That's a public safety concern. And so what I'm capturing with regard to this light source at 4:27 p.m. and you're looking at what is through closed blinds. So let's see on the video. I turn my camera to my bed, and you're looking at the light activity that's appearing then at a downward trajectory on my bed, magnified in size, streaming across the off the mattress onto the floor. You see the entity maintaining engineer light. This is through closed blinds. The blinds are closed. It's appearing both above my head on the ceiling and at a downward trajectory on the mattress, and the blinds are closed. Okay, sunlight that's coming from the sun, that's going to be above us. The sun is not adjacent to me on the third floor. The sun is above us. It's not a hovering light source that's right above our roof. Nonetheless, under all circumstances, it's above us, and sunlight is not coming down from the sun and then reaching horizontally to pierce through the window, and then through closed blinds at an upward trajectory to appear illuminated on the ceiling, and then also at a downward trajectory on the bed as you see it. That's not sunlight. And that's absolutely impossible. That is revealing what is the engineered environment. It is the evidence of demon possession of all those who surround you as well. Okay. In addition to this is occurring again while the light source is outside of the window. So again, I want you to see that light source. This is the light source, not the sun. And I'm in the same apartment where I'm showing you what is this light activity that's coming through closed blinds from what the entity would like to allege is the sun, but no one in federal court is going to contend that. There is no legal argument. This is on its face speaking to the specific environment. Period. It's prima facie. The entity is engaged with federal group stalking and monitoring. Engineer light present with what is criminal presence in the path. It is there because group stalking is underway, and that's exactly what you conclude. The impossible is occurring because criminal conduct of a malicious nature is underway, and it's underway ceaselessly, and it's not underway just by the demons that are stalking in helicopters in California. It's underway because all of the people that are in the path are also exhibiting that same demonic behavioral pattern, by the way, and they are criminally stalking as well, maliciously doing so by living in relevant position. You live in relevant position, you go to federal prison. Okay. And this is what I want to speak to, and what I said in this video that I was going to show you a screen recording. This is at 4:40 p.m. I want to show you what is documentation that I have captured inside of my same bedroom. And this was captured on February 22nd, 2024. Now, again, what we're analyzing here is the impossible light activity, not the maintenance of the light source. The engineered light that you see has nothing to do with the analysis of what's not the sun. This is the analysis with regard to what is not even sunlight. This is breaking down the whole crime scene, okay? At no time of day, under no iteration of the entity's demonic imitation of the natural environment, is sunlight going to appear in the way that you see it. That's never happening. That has nothing to do with sunlight. That's a product of this documentation of the P.O.C. is a product of what is paying attention to the environment, because it's impossible light activity. Sunlight, as I just broke down, is not going to come down from the sun, shoot horizontally through the windows, and then appear through closed blinds at that, above my head on the ceiling, and then also, as I'm showing you today, after 4 o'clock in the afternoon, at a downward trajectory. And then you've also seen, again, 3 hours from now, 7 p.m. This is all common sense. Like I said, when I'm talking about a public safety concern, when I'm talking about psychopaths, when I'm talking about literally, it's just getting stupid now with the criminal system that the entity continuously engages in, there's not going to be any questions when you are going to be raided and you're going to federal prison and you're sitting in federal court. The pattern of conduct has already laid out the criminal act. Literally how the system works, what you're going to see, the iterations of the same exact thing, recognizing the patterns, and then you're analyzing the highly demented and on its face demented mind state of that entity that's engaging in that. The delusional, demon-possessed psychopath that poses a public safety concern, because that delusional psychopath is a part of law enforcement agencies. They have custody of minor children. They are in custody of weapons. They are working in the legal profession. They are working in the medical field. They are amongst children as a way of life. Not only, unfortunately, bringing children into the world, which you see the people of the state doing, group stalking with them, holding hands with them, but also working them, being a teacher, driving school buses. I've documented molestation via engineer light, and a demon is driving a school bus, group stalking and federal stalking with minor children. All of that underway. I've documented that. That is relevant to every area of life that you can fathom. And this is, again, permeating the life of that entity and literally removing the threat that the population poses to the public. Upon all of this is upon exposure of federal group stalking and monitoring. Now, at 9:59 in the morning, like I'm saying this, because this has nothing to do with sunlight, this engineer light that's on my sunlight, that has nothing to do with the light source. This is a separate angle of analysis. The light source is prima facie for federal group stalking and monitoring because the sun is not remaining over your head all day long. Even then, that psychotic and highly criminal, that is malicious, that is consciousness of guilt. That is, I know that I'm a sex offender. I know that I'm a stalker, but I can't stop. I'm going to keep going. Okay, that's that mind state. I know my fingerprints and the dying declaration exists, but I'm going to go murder more people to try to throw them off, and nobody is confused about what's going on here. Only that psychopath. Okay, delusional. That public safety concern is engaging in a criminal system. And so this engineer light is a separate facet of analysis. Not only is that not the sun, speaking to the pattern of conduct of federal group stalking and monitoring, that's not even sunlight. And that which is not sunlight covers all of the venue, covers all of the people of the state. They're driving in it. They're walking in it. They're venues where they live, because you're not living in your private residence. You're living in a venue. It's a third-party facilitating venue. And any state venue where the entity, as I've documented the light source over these police departments, over the Fontana Police Department, that's not a legitimate police department. That's a state facilitating venue. And the sun is not ever going to be over the Ontario Police Department or the Fontana Police Department while you're looking at it remaining over my apartment in Los Angeles, and the opposite. Okay, that's a facilitating venue where the pattern of conduct is underway. That's a separate angle of analysis of establishing the crime scene. The entity is engaging what is the understanding and recognizing the crime scene through what is the engineer light. Sunlight is never going to come down from the sun, and then an upward trajectory horizontally through my windows, through closed blinds, magnified in size, horizontal pattern of illuminated light on the ceiling, and then also, like you see this afternoon, through the same bedroom, by the way, what is appearing both on the ceiling and then also downward on the bed, spreading across my bed, as you've seen over and over and over again. And remember, this is the same bedroom where 3 hours later, you're looking at that light source is still there, and engineer light spreading underneath my bed, behind my headboard, on all across the carpet, moving, growing up the wall. And I use that word growing on purpose because this is demonic. You're looking at the presence of Satan while you're looking at that engineered light. It has nothing to do with the light source. And this video evidence is also evidence of that. Okay, it's 9 o'clock, 9:59 specifically on this day, which is February 22nd, 2024. And I'm showing you what is the same exact bedroom that I'm in right now in 2024, May 25th, 2024. And we're concentrating on the engineered light. And this is the light source that's on my ceiling. Above. You're looking at, again, this is an illusion. First of all of this is impossible. The blinds are closed. And as the entity that is engaging in a demonic targeting system, and a key element is its engineered light, So what you're looking at here, this is where the entity is engaging in a sunrise. Like I said, no one has forgotten. The record remains. This is why you document a corrupt government, because it can say, oh, the target individual is guilty of this crime, and so we're putting them in the facility because they've been diagnosed with this mental health illness, and they're going to take this medication. They're going to remain until this psychiatrist decrees X, Y, and Z. It's a corrupt government, and they're monitoring you. They're group stalkers, having no legitimacy, and they are liars, and that's why you document and surround that corrupt government with evidence that no one will get on the stand and help them with. Okay, this is not sunlight, nor is that the product of any sunlight, because of what is, again, the ongoing analysis with regard to the light source in an entirely different region, and not just in a different region, but it's in that different region for the duration of the day. Okay, that angle of analysis coexists. You're literally systematically breaking down the whole crime scene, and then you're able to compare the crime scenes at that, and then you can break down the engineered light. That's a whole other angle. That's not even sunlight. All right, and so this is what are we looking at here? The entity has the light source outside of the living room, as though the natural environment is such that the sun, even though there is pre-existing evidence of what is the specific environment in an entirely different location, which is speaking to the specific environment in Los Angeles, and the specific environment is where federal group stalking and monitoring is underway, not the natural environment. That are the demon possessed are living all around on the hillside, on Effie, on Lobdell, on Avalon. All right, group stalking in traffic, monitoring, engaging in surveillance in plain sight. That impunity is going to go for your federal prosecution. And that federal prosecution by address, I will get to your name, and that federal judge will get to your name. And you're going to suffer the consequences for engaging in surveillance with a corrupt government. That is nothing that you want any parts of. And you're looking at them on this side of that federal prosecution foolishly continue to do so. And how are you doing so? How are you witnessing that? Because it's not even the natural environment. This is the demon-possessed population. Okay? You've seen the entity cover up the light source. That's not the natural environment. It's a real-time reaction to what I'm exposing about the Upham Police Department, about Officer Morris of the Ontario Police Department who's going to federal prison. It's not in any way contradicting or removing the evidence that's already on the record. Covering up the light source for the first half of the day and then keeping it over me for the second half of the day is equally impossible. It is the exact same specific environment. There is no getting out of the P.O.C., by the way. Okay, so that's what you're witnessing. And this is engineered light, and this is supposed to be, again, the engineered light is occurring because of the illusion, which is demonic, and it is impossible. Sunlight is not going to, again, you're looking at it downward on a downward trajectory where the light source is outside of the living room, blinds are closed, but in my bedroom, there's no light source outside of the window. Not that that will be an explanation for what you're seeing, again, inside of my bedroom right now at the 4 o'clock hour. It has nothing to do with sunlight appearing on your ceiling or appearing on your floor. All right. But you're looking at, again, pay attention to the inconsistent patterns. But what you do see is as a consistent pattern is the engineered light, the presence of that engineered light. And then you're seeing that engineered light just all over the place. And then you're recognizing what's the purpose. How do you recognize the crime scene? The presence of that engineered light touching the surfaces. And that's how you're recognizing what is stalking. Everyone in that environment is stalking. All right. The recognition of what is targeting conduct by the entity, they're targeting through the state's criminal presence, and everybody in that environment is group stalking with that state. And that engineered light is a hallmark. So in the living room, the light source is outside of the living room window at 9:59 in the morning. The engineered light is on the ground. Supposedly sunlight, which you also know is impossible. It's supposedly on the ground. And then position. I go back to my bedroom. The blinds are closed. Impossible. The blinds are closed. They're closed in an upper position. The sun is not going to be aiming in and shooting light like a laser. All of this is impossible. It's implausible. But I'm also showing you how they are blatantly engaging in a demonic system, and light is key. This is the pattern of the blinds. Again, they're closed in an upper position. They're closed in an upper position. It's 9:59 in the morning. Today, you're looking at that engineered light that's on my ceiling, and it is 4:27 in the afternoon. Not only is it appearing above my head like you see in the morning at 9:59 in the morning, which is speaking to impossible light activity. Group stalking is underway. A sex offense is occurring because it's in the private space, but it's also appearing also on the bedspread. Okay, this is speaking to, again, duration of time, and I'm letting you know what has nothing to do with sunlight, and that is obvious. That's on its face. So what is the purpose of making this? Because the Dominic Choi and the corrupt law enforcement agency, the LAPD, they continue to provide evidence against the people of the state, as I said a long time ago. As I continue to document group stalking by the state, who is engaged in what is ongoing terrorism, group stalking in helicopter all day, okay? And while I document the people of the state and upload images and upload the people of the state that I know by name and by address, for example, Sunrise Church, third-party facilitating venue Sunrise Church, which I believe is 2759 Ayala Drive in Rialto, California. The entity engages in what is, as you see, at 9:44 a.m., more pacing conduct. And this is the entity that's in real-time knowledge. Oh, she's documenting Sunrise Church. Let me sound some more helicopter activity. And remember, elements of monitoring are what they're monitoring. But this is a demon that's going, again, they start panicking. And because the demon-possessed are psychopaths, and because they're panicking while they're monitoring you, keeping you under surveillance, that's terrorism to you. Okay, because Satan cannot control the fact that it is going to serve justice. That's not the target individual's problem. And it's also intentionally communicating a threat to the target individual, especially the one that is documenting. So the entity is intentionally sounding helicopter activity with simultaneity to what you're documenting about their criminal conduct, because documenting Sunrise Church is documenting LAPD. It's documenting Alvarado Gardens. It's documenting Todd Speaker and Speaker companies. It's documenting the zone of relevant positioning. Everybody that's living on both sides of these hillsides in LA who are going to be federally prosecuted. It's documenting all of the entity, in other words. It's documenting the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department. I can go down the entire entity that is surrounded with the same exact evidence. It's a crime that's underway by the state. And as I'm documenting a specific actor, the entity engages in more targeting conduct. And the entity that engages in more demonic pacing, that is, as you've seen a plethora of times, which is flying in a circle, demonic pacing and amplifying helicopter activity as I'm documenting the entity on the venue of the internet because they're engaged in Title 18, Section 22618, subsections 1 and 2, criminal conduct. In concert with the people. And as I continue to document that, 10:15, 10:47, 10:55, 11, 11:35, 11:40 a.m., 1:54, 2:42. And again, every time that the entity is sounding audible activity, remember, these are elements of monitoring. The entity is doing nothing other than engaging in the criminal elements of monitoring in a manner that the target individual can hear. This is relevant for harassment as an entity. This is relevant for what is psychological torture, to torment the target individual, to threaten and intimidate the target individual, while they're also monitoring your documentation on the venue of the internet. Every single time you are hearing that, you document it. The entity is doing the exact same thing right now, amplifying what are the demons driving in traffic. They do so with impunity, and no one is going to feel sorry for Lucy Santos, who's going to federal prison for it. That third party is incriminating their own criminal co-conspirator. And this is what is so psychotic about an entity that is surrounded with the evidence of its own criminal conduct. In the same way that the entity sought to surround a targeted individual with its criminal system so that there's no way to escape, that same threat is now flipped on its head, and there's no way for a third-party group stalker such as Lucy Santos to escape federal prosecution for what she is engaging in as the entity that is crossing path and amplifying the sound of that crossing path criminal activity. Let me be clear. All the elements of monitoring serve as an ongoing admission. While you create light activity, you're admitting that you're group stalking. While you're creating audible activity, you're admitting that you're group stalking. While you're crossing path, and you're documenting it, and you do so with impunity because you're an obsessed group stalker and a psychopath and a sex offender, you're admitting it. Okay, it's not like any other crime where you can engage in it outside of the observation of the target individual. They have to maintain audible activity. They have to maintain presence around you. You're going to see them, and you are aware of the fact where it's happening. They are doing it in a specific environment. Group stalking in and of itself, because the demons are targeting you, and that targeting is identified through their conduct. Literally, the demons follow my lead. I am the leader. As I speak to the fact that they're group stalking and amplifying activity, what do you hear? Amplification of activity. The demons don't have a mind of their own. That's why they don't have their own lives. They're using helicopters and stalking me 24/7. And it does not get any more pathetic. And since you have a whole police department, a sheriff's department that's committed to that degree, having nothing else more legitimate to do, wanting to act like you do on paper, but the P.O.C. is showing that you do not have anything more important to do. Since I am the center of your universe, you shall be relieved of your duties, and you will be subject to what is federal prison for group stalking, terrorism, and helicopters. You're going to be subject to systematic mental examinations. You will be permanently removed from law enforcement. You will never be able to own a weapon or bear a weapon. While you are facilitating and holding hands with a demon-possessed and a corrupt public that you're engaging in what is terrorism in concert with, such as Lucy Santos, who's going to federal prison for what that corrupt law enforcement agency is doing on her watch while you live at a crime scene. This is how you're using the criminal system against itself. It is literally the implosion of a demon-possessed population exacting a crime, a criminal act, a criminal system against an innocent American citizen. And you're using all of their criminal conduct that they engage in together on a ceaseless basis against itself. Against itself. And this is the significance of what is keeping engineer light on my ceiling in the morning at 9:59 a.m., which has nothing to do with sunlight, especially while the light source is outside of my living room window and I am inside of the same apartment. And what you're looking at 4 in the afternoon, the engineer light is outside of my bedroom window. That has nothing to do with what is daylight savings time, which is no explanation for what is a time span between, 9 o'clock. We can move it forward to 10 o'clock, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4. That is still 6 hours over the same exact apartment building. Like I stated, daylight savings time has nothing to do with the specific environment. It's a fallacy. It's an illusion. You are not surrounded by the natural environment. And you know why? Because when you are in a different state, and this evidence, the P.O.C. is used with regard to exposing what's going on in this country, and it has implications for what's going on in the rest of the world, by the way, you are going to recognize what's not possibly the natural environment over you while you are looking at the evidence, and we can all count the hours together, okay? 9:59 in the morning, this is engineer light having nothing to do with sunlight. The light source is outside of my window at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. At 9:59, that was 4 o'clock in the afternoon. At 9:59 in the morning, the light source is outside of my living room window. And
in a federal
The
court.
entity is
I also want to pay attention to, there's layers here. Not only is
The
this,
entity is maintaining engineer light
it's
on
all,
my
I
ceiling.
want to familiarize
and
you
I'm
with
showing
what,
engineer
to
light
what's important
that's outside of my
and
living
get
room
you
window.
around you in relevant position. They're not doing anything. They're not focused.
And I will show you what I captured before I captured this video at 9:59 in the morning. I already captured the sunrise through my living room window. Okay, the entity is maintaining a light source as I walk outside of my apartment. Okay, this is the light source, 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm showing you all the iterations of impossible light outside of my inside of my front door. This is my shadow appearing in front of me while I'm inside of my apartment. This is the engineer light, the light source that's going to be in alignment with me as I walk outside. This is, again, engineer light coming through the peephole, concentrated on the wall. Take a good look, ladies and gentlemen. That has nothing to do with sunlight. As I open the door so that you can see it, there's no sun that's going to have an angle that's in alignment with the peephole. Nothing. In the same way that there's no sunlight that's going to create sunlight on my ceiling. This is demonic in every regard. It is evidence of what is demon possession. The demon possessed are monitoring. Okay, I'm referencing what are monitoring spirits. You know what monitoring spirits are? They use people. Okay, Lucy Santos is a demon possessed, legally referred to as a third party group stalker. And her condition is one of demon possession. And she also employs her children in that demonic system. And that's going to be prosecuted as terrorism in the state of California. And so are the men and women and Dominic Choi, demon possessed, doing so in helicopters. This is why you're going to remove those demon possessed populations from the areas in the industry, in the public, in the government, where they're posing a threat, engaging in literally what is terrorism. Okay, this is somebody that is a loose cannon in the head. Not well, okay? Not well at all. Stalking in a helicopter. Doing so in a specific environment while they are monitoring documentation of their criminal conduct. Okay, and looking for ways to continue doing it and trying to get away with it. That boat has long sailed. I'm showing you what is the grounds of what are mental examinations. Okay, this is the engineer light, and I'm going to show you all the engineer light like I would capture on a daily basis. And this is, again, the ongoing vacillation of that engineer light. This is the light source of which I will show you. That's appearing in the depths of my apartment in the morning where the sunrise is captured. And then at 9:59 in the morning, the light source is still outside of the living room window. And you're looking at the engineer light that's on the ceiling inside of my bedroom. And the light source is on the outside of my living room window, the same apartment, outside of my bedroom window. And the engineer light is on my ceiling in my bedroom. It has nothing to do with the sun. That's not sunlight, in the same way that none of this is sunlight. None of what you're seeing on the ceiling or moving or spreading across my bedspread has anything to do with sunlight. It's engineer light. Look at this engineer light that's on the ceiling. It's not just what's on the floor. You can see the engineer light above. Okay, that's engineer light. Engineer light on the wall. Magnification of the blinds at super magnification from the living room window. From the living room. That's impossible light. It's entirely demonic. It's the prima facie case for what is federal group stalking and monitoring. And this is through closed blinds. Okay? This is what the entity is aiming at 7 o'clock in the morning. This is the sunset. Excuse me, the sunrise.
Pattern of conduct, and also, as you also know, the specific environment that I'm capturing where criminal monitoring group stalking is underway. The amplified audible.
This is 7:08 in the morning. 2.5 hours later, almost 3 hours later, it's in this manner on my ceiling at 9:59 in the morning on that day. Today, which is at 4 in the afternoon, it's the same pattern of engineer light on my ceiling while you're looking at the light source that's not outside of my living room window, which is no explanation for that engineer light. You're looking at it outside of my bedroom window. Okay, that is duration of time analysis. That is speaking to what is on its face, a separate mode of analyzing and recognizing the the crime scene where federal group stalking and monitoring is underway. A demon-possessed population is documentation of what is terrorism. You're surrounded by a population that's keeping you under surveillance, and that is terrorizing on its face. Okay, a demon-possessed population, the demon-possessed are engaging in an identical code of conduct. All of the environment is serving to keep you under surveillance. Not only in relevant position while they surround you physically in your path, group stalking you, but also while they are keeping you under surveillance on the internet using communication devices. That is terrorism on its face. And you are able to document literally as you see the engineer light covering all of the property, all 35 units at Silverview Townhomes, all of the people of the state living off of Alvarado, off of Brandon, okay, living off of on the opposite side of Glendale Boulevard, all the houses along that hillside. All of the houses along the opposite hillside outside of my living room window, you're seeing them coated in engineer light all day long from morning until evening, including while you see the corrupt agency LAPD flying in circles for 47 minutes, and engineer light is coating that same hillside as though the sun is going to rise, as you see on this day, February 2022. At 7 in the morning, this same hillside after 6 p.m. and LAPD is group stalking in helicopter for 47 minutes. I'd like to show you because it's more powerful for you to see with your own eyes. For 47 minutes, And you're looking at that same hillside covered in engineered light.
All right, just so that you can see.
All right, sorry, this is a separate one. That's engineered light at nighttime. That's also relevant. This is the P.O.C.
Psychopath that's engaging what is communicating a threat in.
That's the demons that like to maintain presence in the path, and the psychopath that keeps their back to you while they're group stalking, maintaining presence with the entity that uses helicopter. This is engineered light. This is the same hillside where I'm capturing a sunrise. Okay? There is no sun that's going to be present. Let's see. Daylight savings time. Daylight savings time or not. So 7 o'clock, we can bounce to 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock to what would be, let's see, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You have what is a duration of time, which is speaking to, has nothing to do with the natural environment. You're looking at this engineer light, and you're also understanding what has nothing to do with daylight savings time. But what you are recognizing is a pattern of stalking in helicopters and doing so in this spectacular manner. I'm going to prosecute Lucy Santos with this evidence. I'm going to prosecute her with this. This is the malice with which an entity is keeping you under surveillance. And they're doing so in a demonic method. Flying in a circle is called demonic pacing. They're doing it while engineered light is covering all of the people of the state. That's called stalking in the path with engineered light. The entity is doing what while engineered light is filling my bedroom, and the entity is targeting me. Let me be clear. They're not targeting anyone else. They're group stalking with that entity that's group stalking in a helicopter. The entity is targeting me. I have years of evidence of the entity flying over my head day and night in helicopters, following and remaining where I go in helicopters, engaging in kidnapping, and then peculiarly also wanting to engage in criminal defamation while I just so happen to be engaged in what is gathering the evidence of what is state surveillance by a corrupt government. That's not a coincidence. And it is also malicious conduct while that entity is indeed a stalker, is indeed a terrorist, and wants to silence that American citizen. All right, this is the same property where you're looking at the sunrise. This is the same hillside at 7 o'clock in the morning. This is daylight savings time or daylight savings time. In other words, 7 o'clock in the morning or 8 o'clock in the morning, equally impossible. 7:08 to what would be 7 o'clock in the evening, or 8:08 to what is 6 o'clock in the evening. Or you do your math with regard to adding or taking away an hour. That's it. It's impossible. Has nothing to do with the natural environment. This is where you are looking at the specific environment. And this is, again, to be compared with the body of evidence that already exists with regard to surrounding the state of California, which is insurmountable and irreducible evidence of the criminal system yet to be exposed on the world stage of what is going on in the United States. And that is terrorism, America's version of terrorism. America is engaged in what is keeping American citizens under surveillance unbeknownst to them, terrorizing those that are not group stalkers, that are not giving consent, that are not aware of the fact that your privacy doesn't really exist. The people of the state are criminally engaging in that system, and they are of the identical condition. The reality of what are the masses and masses of the population in this country that are demon possessed, that serve Satan, first of all. Second of all, it's relevant to what is criminal conduct, because this is surveillance that's underway by a government. And we have a document called the Constitution in the U.S., and the government does not have any constitutional basis at this point in history to keep an innocent American citizen under surveillance. And that's exactly what you're doing when you're maintaining presence where I am, following where I go, doing so via corrupt law enforcement agencies and that use helicopters, and also engage in what is presence in concert vicariously through the people of the state. And that is recognized through that unnatural environment. That's the significance of having the engineered light. Presence and engineered light is achieving what is group stalking in concert with what is audible activity, which the entity is maintaining on an ongoing basis. All right, so this is what I wanted to hone in on. This is the same day where I'm showing you the sunrise on February 22nd, 2024. This is where the light source remains outside of this living room window 2 hours later at 9:59 in the morning, which has nothing to do with the engineered light that's on my ceiling. All right, the light source is outside the living room window, the same location where I saw the sunrise, okay, outside of my living room window. And you are looking at, again, the entity is maintaining the light source outside, just to connect those dots for you. What is at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the entity is maintaining the engineer light on my ceiling. This is the same exact pattern, the same exact criminal act, documentation of what is terrorism via directed light while it's remaining on my ceiling. And then the entity is providing a wealth of evidence against the people of the state. These are documented terrorists, the LAPD. All right, this is the evidence which is going to serve for, again, Dominic Choi does not have a legitimate presence. He is permanently done with law enforcement, and his position is already It's already gone. This is evidence of what is understanding how the system works, what the system looks like, understanding the specific environment, which is the identification of the crime scene where a demonic system is underway. This is terrorism by a demon-possessed entity that is a corrupt entity. It's a matter of public corruption, and it is literally the government that is your stalker, and the government is maliciously stalking you in concert with those that are living at that crime scene, and that is what are the people of the state on the hillside,
Engaging in what is
the
this
people
show of
of the
terrorism
state that are living at Alvarado Gardens, the people of the state that are acting in concert with that entity, doing so in a very highly malicious manner, which is, again, maintaining presence in such a manner like you see Marina Davila engaging in. And you will, as the wealth of documentation, you'll see the same pattern. Demons that are stalking in the path. Oh, I'm just taking a gander at the flowers. The flowers are so beautiful. Oh, I'm just taking a walk in the parking lot, and I just want to stop right in the path of the target individual and chit chat with you about what we bought at the grocery store. You know, I bought that new all-purpose flour, and it was just so spectacular. I loved it. I made some oatmeal cookies, and my kids just loved it. And they're doing it with regard to the pattern is what you'll recognize. And an entity that acts at that level of malice, that's a public safety concern. Okay, that's a public safety concern. That's an intent to psychologically torment someone, stalk them and target them, but also want to maintain it again, which is it's unsuccessful. No one is fooled by Satan when he is in the engineer light, when the light source is remaining all day, when the entity is group stalking in helicopters. And then that psychopath wants to, oh, I'm just chit-chatting. No, you're group stalking and you're a psychopath and a sex offender. And no one is fooled by that. That method, by the way, of targeting someone, because that's all it is. But I want you to see what I'm talking about. This is the entity that's engaging in what is criminal presence and takes the appearance of, oh, I'm just taking a look at the pretty flowers at the gate. Which again, you saw Min Kim engaging in the same thing just days ago. It's more than that, but that's just the latest one that I can recall right now on the top of my brain, off the top of my brain. Taking that same position at the gate, that's called relevant positioning, while the entity flies over by helicopter. Okay, you saw Jung Kim engaging in what is group stalking while walking in front of my apartment. LAPD is group stalking. You just don't see them on camera. And he's pacing in front of my apartment today. And at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, when I'm capturing this video, and the light source remains, it's 5:27 right now. The light source is still present. The light source was over my apartment when you saw that demon, Sean Jung, crossing path. His shadow is speaking to the presence of the light source. That's not the sun that will be present 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 hours later. Okay? Daylight savings time or not. Okay, my apologies. I can't seem to find Marina Davila. I mean, she's here, but I don't want to have to go through the whole video. We're already at 42 minutes. But what you can see is the engineer light, and the entity is group stalking in a helicopter flying in a circle. So I'm glad that you see that, because this is going to be widely shared evidence of this is Marina Davila, and this is a demon. This is called malice. This is called criminal presence in the path. It's maintaining presence. The entity is relying on presence by the entity. Somebody, anyone. And on this side of the apartment building, the entity is standing in the path while the entity is present. You see the engineer light. You're maintaining presence while the entity is flying repeatedly in circles. As I capture the pattern of conduct on a plethora of occasions, you will recognize the same pattern. The entity is crossing path while they're driving into the parking lot, crossing path with me, while the entity is group stalking in a helicopter, engineer light. The entity is walking to the dumpster while the entity is crossing path in helicopter. Somebody's always present in the path. All right. The same thing is underway, by the way, while the entity is, again, they are on high alert because I'm documenting, and I've been this is, again, the demon possessed entity. They're not elite. They're not wise. They are not strong. They are not advanced. They are in every way, literally, a stalker is a follower. That's exactly their position as well. They are literally following, learning about their fate. Okay. In other words, they're late. Okay. And so as they remain late, because they still cannot help themselves, you're late. And then also you can't even help yourself with regard to the ability to engage in something that perhaps won't hurt so much in federal court. But this is providence for the benefit of the world to witness, because you need to understand what malice looks like with regard to an intent. Satan intends to maintain a very highly deceptive presence in your life. Unbeknownst to you, wants you to think that Satan is not real, wants you to think that demon possession is a joke, that it's something that is maintained by someone that you can't prove it. And that's all nonsense. It's a lie. It's to deceive you. And demon possession, as you will see somebody just like this exhibiting demon possession, this is exhibiting malice. These are the identical criminal pattern of conduct. This is the identical criminal pattern of conduct. And a demon wants to appear. Oh, I'm just paying attention. The flowers are so pretty. Look, oh my goodness. Look at the tulips that I planted last week. They're growing. They're so gorgeous. Oh my goodness, bless my heart. I'm so excited. The entity is engaging in what is terrorism. First of all, this is terrorism. But second of all, you're not going to forget about what's occurring. And this is what the entity wants you to focus on, as though this is a delusional psychopath. Like there is some separation of the conduct that's occurring in the environment, engineered light, stalking by the state, amplification, targeting by not only location, but also with regard to what the target individual is doing. And then you have a whole body of evidence engaging in what is conduct in conformity to this. And then you're looking at a psychopath that thinks, oh, I'm just looking at the flowers. That's the delusional mind state of the population that is obsessively group stalking you and has nowhere to hide in their venue where they live in relevant position. Okay? It is currently 5:31 p.m. The entity is maintaining the light source, and this was evidence showing you what is impossible light that's on the ceiling. All right, and I want you to see the same environment. The light source is in the same location. This is the apartment where I'm showing you the light source is outside of the living room window, and then you're seeing the engineer light on the ceiling. And that has nothing to do. It has nothing to do with what is sunlight. Okay, and then you're looking at hours later. The sun would not be over the same apartment or in any position in alignment to the same apartment 6, 7, 8, 9 hours later, because that's exactly what is documented. While the entity is maintaining, again, an engineered environment well after sunset, while the entity is maintaining as though the sun is going to set in alignment. That's not the natural environment. That's the specific environment where federal group stalking and monitoring is underway. And this is what I have documented over a prolonged period of time, where the entity is engaging in what is federal group stalking and monitoring. And so this is documented inside of my private space. And this is where you are seeing at nightfall the engineer light that's, again, growing on the bedroom walls. This is all at the hillside. They're all being documented at the same time. This is the engineer light. Again, this is after 6:59 p.m. as though the sun is in a position to aim sunlight through my bedroom window, the same bedroom window where you're seeing it at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. This is the entity group stalking in a helicopter. The entity is engaged in the same pattern of conduct, maintaining that specific environment day in and day out at the same address. This is the living room window. 9 o'clock in the morning. This is captured April 28, 2024, same time of your analysis. It's directly relevant to what the entity is doing right now. 9 o'clock in the morning. Guess what? There's no sunlight that's going to be in alignment to my bedroom window over the same property at 5:05 in the afternoon. The entity is maintaining a specific environment with regard to what is federal group stalking and monitoring. And in that environment, the entity is maintaining what is engineered light spreading across the bed. All right, maintaining a light source. This is the same time of your analysis, April 29th at 6:12 p.m. There is no sun that's still going to be present after 4 p.m. Aiming light on the ceiling, disappearing. The light source is in the same position outside of this window. All right, but the engineered light that's going down at a downward trajectory, this remains. This is the light activity that you see on the ceiling while the light source is outside of the living room window. 7, 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, having nothing to do with the engineered light over the same property at the end of the day, has nothing to do with the sun, has nothing to do with sunlight, disappearing off the ceiling then, and then remaining on what as at a downward trajectory. This is where group stalking is underway, and that's documentation of what is a sex offense. And this is the light source that's outside as I'm capturing again, while you're looking at the engineer light as I'm capturing it at 4:04, capturing the light source, engineer light. The light source is outside of my bedroom window, and it remains here as though the sun is setting, okay? That passage of time, 3 hours into a sunset, that has nothing to do with the sun or a sunset. That's the specific environment where the entity is heavily group stalking via helicopter. This is where the state's criminal system, again, the pattern of conduct, the specific environment, federal group stalking and monitoring is identified through two things. The specific environment is established and the state is stalking directly. Where those two are present, you have established the crime of what is federal group stalking and monitoring, and the people of the state are being prosecuted. They are engaged in group stalking. And then I'm also showing you, as I literally document them, they're engaged in that ongoing concerted act on an ongoing basis, but you're just establishing it with regard to a federal prosecution. So this is the video that I'm capturing, the video that I'm capturing at 4:27 p.m. The light source is outside of my bedroom window. And this is the light source that is maintaining presence directly over my bedroom window. At 4:27, it's 5:34 p.m. The entity maintains a light source. As you can see, the light activity that appears as though, again, there's no sun that's going to be over the Ontario Museum of History and Arts. This is the entity that's maintaining engineered light, and it's cycling inside, going from the ceilings, going from the side of the walls. That has nothing to do with sunlight. This is the criminal pattern of conduct, and it is the outward demonstration of demon possession by a whole population. In the same way that a demon that's driving by a building and engineered light moves across that building, this is what you're saying for purposes of maintaining that environment. This is the demonstration of demon possession. Demons are in the environment and they are group stalking. It is the same thing when you're looking at somebody that is moving and engineered light is moving at the same time. You're looking at it maintaining stationary presence, and demons are maintaining presence. There are demons inside of that apartment building. There are demons that are driving, crossing path on Silverview townhomes. There are demons that are walking, coming out onto the sidewalk, walking into their vehicles. This is the same pattern of maintaining engineered light, touching all over the surfaces, including on my ceiling, inside of my bedroom, inside of my apartment, as though sunlight is again coming inside, going at a downward trajectory, spreading across my mattress, appearing and disappearing on my ceiling, and then also ricocheting off of the same windows, appearing on across a distance between buildings onto that surface. This has nothing to do with the light source. This has nothing to do with the light source that I'm capturing over the Ontario Museum of History and Arts, which wouldn't even be the sun either, because it's rising over me at that museum in the morning, as I already documented before I relocated to LA. And that's the prosecution of a whole population. Okay. In addition, the criminal conduct by the state engaging in stalking in that specific environment, and that is the federal prosecution of the people of the state. And that is why Lucy Santos has no grounds in federal court. You're entitled to your constitutional right to a day in court. But federal prosecution for a malicious crime committed by government, you don't have any legal argument. You don't have a defense, and your work schedule is irrelevant, because group stalking is that which is underway by an entity, and it is occurring in a specific environment, so that it is ceaselessly underway, both while Lucy Santos is at work and while she is returning back to where she lives and engages in 24-hour surveillance. This is engineered light that's appearing above my head. Okay, through a hallway, the dark hallway, and the door is closed. Okay, this is the pattern of conduct of group stalking. All right, this is speaking to what is impossible light. So you're looking at the light that's appearing at a downward trajectory concentrated on my bed, but you're also looking at what is engineered light. There's more than one method of engineered light. You also saw this in the morning as I showed you pictures on February 22nd, 2022. You saw this in the morning. You're looking at, all you're doing is recognizing patterns. That's all you're doing, recognizing patterns. And this is the insurmountable evidence against an entire population who shall be prosecuted federally and also exposed thoroughly with regard to the act of terrorism that is federal group stalking and monitoring. And they will be identified by name, specifically by name, because they're engaging in terrorizing someone by name, studying their life, invading their privacy, sexually violating and offending them, acting in concert, by the way, with LAPD, who goes out of its way to amplify helicopter activity while I'm physically indisposed. So I want to make sure I document that sex offense. They specifically do so while I'm physically indisposed inside of my private space. Doing so, the more that you document the sex offender, the more violence that sex offender engages in. And that is on the watch of Lucy Santos. She's going to be prosecuted. That's why she's losing custody, because she is a heavily documented sex offender who was a threat to the minor children that she's in custody with. Okay? That's exactly how that goes, because that's exactly what you are. That's what you're doing. That's what you're facilitating. And that's how the evidence is used. So anyway, it's currently, again, 5:38 p.m. This is P.O.C.